For Silent Night, I'm just going to do it measure by measure. First measure, I'm going to get all these notes down at the same time. That's the E on the 4th string, 2nd fret on the D string. The 2nd fret of the G string, that's an A. 2nd fret of the B string, that's a C sharp. I'm going to get all those down at the same time before I even start playing that measure. So here's measure 1. And, spin this up a little bit. Then thumb on that next note. And add the pinky on that F sharp note. Get a better view of the fretting hand. I could also move my 3rd finger over for that F sharp note, which is on the and of 2 beat of that measure. So here's measure 1. Might be easier to move the 3rd finger because you're getting really scrunched up there. And then measure 2. Don't need to move anything on the fretting hand for that. Those 2 measures repeat. Here's measure 3. Measure 5, 2nd line. I am on the G sharp, that's the 6th fret of the D string. And then the D, the 7th fret of the G string. Skip the 2nd string, which is the B string, and skip that. Then the 7th fret of the E string, which is a B note. And then my thumb has the low E here. So measure 5. Measure 6. Here's what the fingering looks like. 4th fret of the 3rd string of the B string, that's the 5th fret of the 4th fret of the G string, 5th fret of the B string, 4th fret of the E string. That's a B, an E, and a G sharp. Measure 6. Oh my gosh, what's wrong with me? It's actually this, sorry.
I have one of my days.
4th fret of the G string, 3rd fret of the B string, which is a D, and 4th fret of the 1st string. Measure 6 again. Measure 7. Got a little bar here. 1st finger is going to cover the 5th fret of the first 2 strings, the E and B strings. 2nd finger, this is something we've seen. It's similar to stuff we've seen before. 2nd finger will cover the C sharp on the 3rd string, that's the 6th fret. And the 3rd finger will cover the 7th fret of the 4th string, that's an A note. So here's measure 7. And then, back to our original fingering for measure 8. Measure 9, here's what we have. And actually, here's what I'd like to do. I'll mark it in the score as such, but I like to bar halfway across the 2nd fret of the first 3 strings. And add my 2nd finger on the 3rd fret of the 2nd string. So for measure 9 I have, then pluck the A, measure 9 again, measure 10, I do all this but I add my pinky on the 5th fret of the 1st string. That. So here's measure 10. Then back to the original material in measure 1 and 2. So that took us through measure 12. Those 4 measures, measure 9 through 12, they repeat again Measures 13 through 16 are repeats. That takes us to measure 17, which is actually the same as measure... Actually, no, not the same as anything. This is new. This is another half barring moment across the 7th fret this time. The first 3 strings, 7th fret, and your 3rd finger can be on the 9th fret of the 2nd string. That's a G sharp note. So here's measure 17. Measure 18, another half bar, this time on the 9th fret. So we're getting really vertical on the fretboard here. And your 2nd finger will go on the 10th fret of the E string. It's a D note. And then you have 2 melody notes after that, both on the 2nd string, the B string. Here's measure 18. One more time. Measure 19, bar across the first 2 strings on the 5th fret, and then 2nd finger will just go on the 6th fret of the 3rd string. That's a C sharp note. Measure 20, you don't even have to half bar this, you can just fret them all individually. 9th fret of the 3rd string, that's an E. 10th fret of the 2nd string, that's an A. And then 9th fret of the 1st string, that's a C sharp. So yeah, measure 20 one more time. Measure 21. 3rd finger will be on the, you know what, let's start the other way. Another barring across the first 2 notes, first 2 strings on the 5th fret. 2nd finger on the 6th fret of the 3rd string. And 3rd finger, you're skipping the 4th string, 3rd finger on the 7th fret of the 5th string. Pluck those notes at the same time. This is the beginning of measure 21. Measure 22, really straightforward. You only fret down 1 note. Then the 2 melody notes. And then 23, really straightforward. Just fret down those 2 notes. So let me do a nice and slow playthrough. Starting, I'll call it the measures as we go. Sorry. This is measure 1. Measure 2. Measure 3. Measure 4. Measure 5. Measure 6. Measure 7. Measure 8. Measure 9. Measure 10. Measure 11. Measure 12. Measure 13. Measure 14. Measure 15. Measure 16. Measure 17. Measure 18. Measure 19. Measure 20.